Caroline at the briefing also said this, number two, that the president won't recommend a special prosecutor on Epstein. Now, I never had any indication there'd be a special prosecutor. I thought there might be someone designated, a lawyer, to investigate the thing and put out a report. But I think there's a bit of a red herring or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, they said that today at the briefing. Now, Mick Mulvaney, number three. Mick Mulvaney, former House member. Mark, you probably worked with Mr. Mulvaney, I would guess. And then, of course, ran the OMB and was acting chief of staff for Donald Trump. According to the Daily Beast, he made a bombshell claim about the Epstein files. Well, here's his bombshell claim. I could say that in air quotes. Number four, please, on Al Jazeera.
You're saying you didn't see any of the video stuff. You weren't involved. This doesn't rise to the level of chief of staff or the White House. And yet you're confidently saying that Elon Musk is wrong and his name's not in the files. How do you know?
I did. No, I absolutely didn't. In fact, I think if you go back and look at the tape, I said, I imagine that Donald Trump's name is in the file someplace. There's photographs of them together. Okay. So if there's a file someplace, which I assume there is.
Trump says his name is not in anything. So he's lying.
I could imagine. Why? There'd be photographs of him.
But he said it's not him.
I have to imagine his name is on the list someplace. He was a member at Mar-a-Lago. By the way, Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago for being too weird. True story.
I mean, he also said he's a terrific guy who likes younger women. So.
All right, go back to the Daily Beast headline number three. Mick Mulvaney wasn't saying he's in there. He kept saying, I imagine he's in there. I think this is a little hyped up. Either of you ever heard of the Daily Beast hyping up his story? Raise your hand. Sure. Okay. Now, Megyn Kelly is my guest on the new episode of Next Up, available now. We had a 30-minute conversation about the Epstein situation, and there's really almost nobody in the country I would want to talk to more than Megyn, because she understands Donald Trump, MAGA, the law, and the national environment, national mood. Great conversation. Here's what Megyn said. I recommend it to you. Here's what Megyn said about Pam Bondi, number five, please.
The way you handle any sort of a, quote, scandal, and they were sort of sitting with this two-page memo, they must have realized it would create a, quote, scandal, is to not do a drip, 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 but to put it all out there, put it out up front. Don't have, anything that can come back on you, like, what about this? What about that? Stand there for hours on end, answering all the questions. And then at every point thereafter, you say, what more do you want from me? I did it. I gave you all this stuff. I sat there for 7 hours answering your questions. It's done. Let's move on. And then you have total credibility to do that. They've done the opposite. Like in the dark of night, a two-page memo trying to put to bed a scandal his people created, his top people created. And Pam Bondi, as DOJ Attorney General, was fueling the fire for months on television. The nerve of that woman to think she could get away with that. I'm sorry, she's directly to blame for the trouble that Trump is in right now. And I really don't think Pam Bondi recovers from this. The base doesn't have the affinity for her that they have for Trump. And while Trump may be Teflon Don, the people around him aren't. And I do think her days are numbered.
All right. Lastly, Mrs. Pelosi, Speaker Emirata. Is that the right way you say that? Brian's old boss. She went on MSNBC today, and she basically said this whole Epstein thing and this whole Alcatraz thing, they're distractions. We should be focused on the reconciliation bill and the real lives of real people, which is an admirable position, I would say, and not a surprising one for her to take. Let's listen to a little bit of Nancy Pelosi on MSNBC, number 6, please.
Is it your sense there's anything the president can do now to get his supporters to move off of the Epstein issue? Should he? Where do you land on this?
Again, this is a distraction. This is a distraction. We have major issues right here with things we're voting on today in the Congress. Again, in terms of the rescission that the president and the Senate have sent back over us to cut all of these resources out of helping poor people throughout the world, to be America play its leadership role in soft power to keep us safe and to keep us healthy, so that viruses know no boundary. And instead, we're talking about him, about this thing, and his own base has its own views of what the president should do. I'll leave it up to them to talk it out.
Okay,
again,
so she played it down. She played it down, and then hold on, you can dump out of this. And then a little later, I'm not sure if she got some feedback or heat from playing it down, but here's what she tweeted a little bit later in the day. You can put that up. You need the number, Sam. There you go. For reasons known only to him, Donald Trump is now refusing to appoint a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. After weeks of refusing to release the Epstein files, this week House Democrats voted unanimously to release the files. Republicans voted to keep them hidden. With deep respect for the victims, their trauma, and their privacy, everyone on the Epstein list must be held accountable no matter who they are. Release the files. I don't know if that's in contradiction to saying this is a distraction, but certainly if there were a special prosecutor, it would elevate the issue. If you don't think it's a distraction. Now, Punchbowl is reporting that the Rules Committee is now engaged in a inter-party shouting match over dealing with the rule on Epstein. And Mr. Scott, Republican, Mr. McGovern, Democrat, are yelling back and forth in the Rules Committee as they try to get the rule passed. So we'll keep monitoring that. All right, guys, I think I have one more thing to tell you about Jeffrey Epstein, and then I want to know what you think. No, that's it. Mark.
That's it?
That's it for now. Where are we? Where is this headed in terms of the president, the White House, waiting for this Wall Street Journal story, and in terms of Capitol Hill? Like, what are the next 4 shoes that you think will drop in this deal?
Well, there's a couple realities that kind of all strung together at different points here. One, the Mick Mulvaney quote, that gave me PTSD from quid pro quos happen all the time.
Right.
Like, dude, if you're trying to help, that's not helping.
He's a loose talker. That smart man, Mick Mulvaney. He's a loose talker.
Right. Secondly, I think like there's an opportunity here for the administration to acknowledge some facts that DOJ and FBI leadership has agreed on what the underlying components of what they have and what they don't. But as Megyn Kelly pointed out, it's like it was kind of in a memo and it was leaked, and it hasn't really been addressed since then. I think there's an opportunity here for both the administration and then, I don't know, even leadership from the Senate and House Judiciary Committee, get them together and say, what are the parameters here of, because there are very valid reasons why it's okay to say, you know what, we thought we had this, but turns out this was not the case. Here's what we can't release and here's why. And that there's a lesson here that kind of reminds me of when in early 2023, we were in the process of releasing the January 6th tapes, in which case that's a very delicate situation as well. And you can't just put it all out there because it's thousands of hours of footage. And also there's delicate security features, et cetera, and certain people's identity. But with that, there were 2 lessons that the White House should take away from that. One is that the media's belief in what counts as transparency is going to shift if you are a Republican or not. And if they are going to give you hell for what they say is not transparency, that's just going to happen, and you're just going to have to roll with it. Secondly, even your supporters who want to get to, quote, the bottom of it, no matter what you do, there will never be enough. There will never be enough, because ultimately, if you have to prove something that doesn't exist, that's just going to happen. And so you need to just go courageously, walk forward with those 2 facts, and be able to release what you can release, but also be able to confidently say, this is where we're at, and here's why.
Brilliant. Brian, where do you think we are?
Well, a couple of things that, I think that, that adding some, and previous administrations have done this, I think adding a special prosecutor, certainly with Pam Bondi's performance, would probably lend a lot of credibility to the process. And it would literally shelve it, and they would do their work and come back, and that's the process. And I think that that's probably something, if there's no there, then no one should be scared of that official role and someone being called on to do that, with even the Trump supporters, calling it into question. I think that there's a lot of evidence there to be able to do this. I want to know, Mark, if you've talked in other in previous two-way conversations about Miss Maxwell. And is she really silent on this because she's been waiting to be pardoned? Something along that line. Everybody else has been pardoned. So is she thinking that I can't take that off the table, so I'm not saying anything for now? But it seems like if anyone knows that, could validate without saying a whole lot that yes, there's something there. Whether there is a question today about whether there's actually a list, or I think Mark said it, that there's actually files, right? There's files out there. They had to have kept records on a lot of this stuff, and just with the going back and forth of everything that we've seen with regards to plane records. But I just find it interesting that Miss Maxwell's been quiet. She literally is waiting for this appeal to the Supreme Court. Maybe this is a way that also the president is signaling to the Supreme Court that maybe that kind of takes her off the field if that gets taken care of. But I just kind of think it's a little bit interesting that people are not talking about her at all.
Yeah, well, they are talking about her in the sense that some House Republicans are saying she should come up and testify. Mr. Burchett of Tennessee, thank you, said today, and this is the voice you hear from lots of people, even Thune and Johnson, the leaders have suggested a little distance from the president, at least in terms of tone. Quote, ultimately, I don't answer the president or the voters. I'm going to answer to my maker as a Christian, and surely our children are the least amongst us. You could imagine a world in which perhaps they subpoena her to come up, even if the White House is skittish about it and wants to keep the leverage.
Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.